It's a very under the radar industry, but there's some serious consequences. I've been trying to bring that to light, but there's no warning label, right? Everyone's like live fast, die young, kind of stuff. But it's like, well, what happens when you don't, right? And you're 55 and you're 60 and you're broken. You are broken. You have tons of bad habits and you have a doctor tell you like, hey, you need to make some changes. How hard is that, right? Now you're dealing with extremes. Now you got to cut everything out, Yeah. Cutting everything you do out. That's a shame. I feel it's a shame because once again, I think like there's simple things to do that I think people just want to know if they do them, they're going to get the results that they want, right?
Yeah.
If they're going to put the effort in, they're going to get the results they want. Like a traveling person wants to know like, what is the optimum effort I can put in so that I am kind of like counteracting some of these things. That balance. Can I do this without being like obsessive?
The Fire Within podcast. You need a sustainable plan, the right mindset, and the knowledge and inspiration to stoke the fire within. Just like the phoenix, you can burn your old habits, never turn back, and emerge completely anew. There are no shortcuts.
Welcome, Fire Within Nation. This is the Fire Within podcast, where we dive into all things nutrition, fitness, and health related. I'm your host, Brandon, and today we have a very special guest. We have Ryan George. So, hey, Ryan.
How are you guys?
Good. So rather than spoil the surprise, I'm going to let Ryan kind of explain who he is, what he does, and what he's all about.
Sure. That's a good, interesting story between what I do and fitness and bringing those realities together. But for lack of a better term, I'm a roadie, more or less go by like a technician or guitar tech or, keyboard tech or whatever. I basically tour since I was about 20 with all kinds of bands.
Do you handle groupies?
No, not anymore. Don't go anywhere near that world. That's a very old school world. There's a lot more professionalism. All the debauchery and all that stuff only lasts for so long. You're only gonna hang around for so long.
Yeah, I bet you got some fun stories from back in the day.
But it was like living in a college dorm. It was just like a continuation of like you just like never grow up. You just keep going and you do a rock show, you pull it off, and that's your whole priority basically.
Yeah. Now, who are some of your favorite bands you've toured with?
Well, I've been pretty lucky in the fact that a lot of the bands I toured with were people that I listened to. And my first touring gig was with Beck, which was huge. It was very coincidental. I was in the right place at the right time and learned a lot. I mean, and from that point on, it put me in a world. A lot of those bands like Jack White, the White Striped People, stuff like that, they all kind of orbit around the same, people and managers, and it's a very word of mouth industry. So once you sort of get in there and are kind of trusted, then your name gets around as an available, trustworthy person. I would say favorite band that I work for changes because in throughout time, it depends on the crew. I mean, my reality changes, right? Like my perspective on music is one thing, but what makes a great job, is another thing. And I like all the music. I mean, you have to listen to show after show, night after night, like the same music. And if you don't like it, then, good luck. A lot of people do that. And, I have more power to them.
Yeah, but it's helpful that you like what you hear. Now, the reason I wanted to have you on the show is you're working on and mastering one of the most difficult things for, I know the clients I've had in the past and people in general, is how to stay fit and have a healthy lifestyle while traveling. And touring probably has even more challenges than just getting on a plane doing business stuff. So tell us a little bit about what you do with this tour life and your research and what you're offering to musicians and even just your own personal journey.
Oh, yeah. Well, I sort of hit a wall in my personal life and in touring and kind of the combination of it all. And, I realized I was a heavy smoker, heavy drinker, prided myself on being able to drink as much as anybody else and be able to do my job, get up the next day at any call, anytime, and just go, 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 go. The lifestyle is late nights, early morning sometimes. You sleep until you have to get up. So you just get up, you work, you try to get through, you eat dinner, get a shower, whatever, do the show, kill it. And then you're kind of wound up after that, so you don't necessarily go to sleep right away. You might be getting on a bus, driving for overnight, sleeping on a moving washing machine. It's not the most, relaxing thing in the world. So a lot of people will just basically drink until they just fall, you're ready to go to sleep or whatever. My mid 30s, I feel like I was like 60 years old. The lifestyle just hits you in the face, and either you power through it and sometimes you become a, severe alcoholic or, whatever, or you change. A lot of musicians, they hit a wall or they change.
Yeah.
Right. And the change is not easy. You're limited to your access of time, access of food, access to a gym, access to, privacy, whatever.
Yeah.
So I just decided I needed to figure out how to do it.
Yeah.
I need to figure out how to make it work, and, started writing a blog that didn't exist in my industry. And I wanted to try to find that middle ground to where it was doable and where people would see me as like someone who could go out and have a glass of wine and go out and do, whatever, and not have to be perfect, but also, treat fitness like it was brushing my teeth.
Yeah.
Just had to do it. I'm writing about basically making myself the test case, right? So doing massive amounts of research, reading books, and finding what works and what doesn't, and going down all the roads that, I have lots of opinions about, about food and about exercise and about trends and different things. And like maybe you probably possibly agree is that whatever works for you as long as you can maintain it, as long as you can consistently do it.
Yeah.
And it leads you to the place that you want to be.
Yeah, and that's kind of the theme of the show is what are the sustainable habits? Because if you drop everything and do it for 6 weeks and then you blow up, then what good did you do?
Yeah, I think a lot of people also have great intents and they don't know where to start. And sometimes they start in a place that's way beyond their reality. And they sort of set themselves up for failure because, okay, I'm keto or I'm this, I'm that. And it's like I have nothing against any of that. But if you've never even had a balanced diet and now you're going to an extreme, it's like going and saying, I'm going to be like a power lifter from zero, because people are like, hey, that's CrossFit or whatever. It's the fastest way. Look how fast these people get into shape, or look at how amazing they are. It's like, yeah, but you're setting yourself up for failure unless you are just willing to learn and learn and learn and fail and learn and fail. But a lot of people just want, simple answers. And then a lot of people just want mobility, right?
Yeah.
Like they don't want to be like, the greatest athlete or Arnold Schwarzenegger or other. But then obviously as you see results, you start upping the bar. So but people just up the bar. They just put the bar so high right away, I think. And I think that's how people think of it. And I've been trying to kind of, how do I relate that you don't have to like kill yourself to be in better shape? You just have to keep slightly getting out of your comfort zone and upping the bar.
Yeah. Can you talk to us about some of the first steps you took towards getting to a healthier lifestyle and what those were and what those changes were like? Some of the small changes you started with as you started to become healthier.
Honestly, one of it was quitting smoking, which was very difficult. And I think what I did was I tried to build healthy habits so that I would be more invested in myself, not to smoke, because I was trying to I had goals. I set up goals. I'm like, I'm going to get older. I'm like 43 this month, and it's only going to get harder, So if I can start now and find out what is my peak health and invest in that, then I won't want to turn back. I won't want to undo it.
Yeah.
So I started running, which I'm not a big fan of. And I feel like it's a lot. I feel like it's a lot of people's go-to because it's easy.
Yeah.
People feel that it doesn't take much information. I would beg to differ. I think it actually takes a lot of information to properly run and to do it well and to do it with, but everybody gets those once again, those beginners results, those beginners gains and stuff like that. So they're like, that's the way. And when they hurt themselves or they fall off, they just keep going back to that. They keep going back.
It's a cycle of injury.
Marathon running is the thing, right? People get into it. And I think it's fantastic if it gets you up and out. But I think there's a level of diminishing returns with some of it. Not for everybody, it's a generalization.
Yeah.
But I think, I try to tell people it's like, well, you're jogging 5 miles. Okay. But what are you trying to do? What are your goals? Well, I'm trying to get fit and I'm trying to lose weight. It's like, well, what if I told you if you sprinted your ass off, did sprints back and forth for, a quarter of the time and just more intensity, you'd get the same results, maybe even more in less time.
And I was hooked into running for years. And I think if I knew more about corrective exercises then and had a better diet and wasn't overtraining, I think maybe I could have done it well. But I ended up with knee surgery. I had fractures, all kinds of things.
Most people want to live pain-free, right?
Right.
I mean, has become my focus. Because it's like, you can get really caught up in, the getting strong, getting big, hypertrophy, like leanness, all this stuff. And that's great. And I have some of those goals for sure. Yeah. But when you start trying to relate to people, I feel like the one thing that really relates to them is it's not about perfection, but really it's about the quality of your life. Yeah. And if you can relate that to people, I personally think people will be more into fitness. I really do, because I think they just see the extremism all the time.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, I actually met you, I think 2017 at the Ethylene X Games.
Right.
And you're a pretty fit dude. Like you're ripped. So tell us a little bit about some of your eating habits, your routines and things like that. And I know it took some time to get there, but what does that look like now? You know what? It's like a never ending journey. I think there's very few people, once they master this, they shave all the complexity away and they really simplify it to the bare bones of what it is, of what works for them. I think that's where I've just been trying to get constantly, is like shaving off all the marketing and all the stuff that you go down these rabbit holes and simplifying it, not eating more calories than, your body needs necessarily, but also getting the diversity and nutrition that you need. Yeah. The more I simplify it, the closer I get to my goals every time. Like, what do you eat on the road? What do you go for?
So when I'm on the road, I will really rely on snacks that I just know. Like I like Power Crunch bars, or like, I'll just carry around those different snacks that I find are low sugar, and have enough protein in them.
Yeah.
The typical stuff.
So you're making the best of what you can when there's not a lot of options.
Yeah. Basically, I'm just like keeping myself from being hungry, right? Like you're going through, you shouldn't be hungry. If you're cutting back and you're trying to be lean, or you're trying to, eat a salad with protein and stuff like that, but then you get to the end of the day and you really didn't eat enough food, you're going to binge. So at least if I binge, I'm getting I just snack. I fill it all in with snacks, because I'm at the mercy of catering. We have catering sometimes. Yeah. Sometimes it's fantastic, right? Sometimes it's super healthy. Like I keep it simple. Sweet potato or baked potato, or a russet potato or whatever. Don't put much on it, just a lot of pepper or cinnamon on a sweet potato. I eat a lot of vegetables. Try and keep the oils kind of low if I can, but once again, if I can't control it, then I'm just looking more at my portions, right? Because I know that it's a little bit more calorie dense with more oils and stuff on it. And then a lean protein.
Because people are so different, and there's so many different likes, and there isn't a specific diet that's written exactly for one person.
Yeah. I think tracking your food for at least a little bit, right? Every time I'm on my diet, eventually I start kind of adding more food than I realize. And then I start kind of putting weight on, I track my food again, and I'll realize I'm like, oh man, I have crept up, in my fats and some, stuff here. And I'm thinking I'm eating a great diet. Once again, I'm not going to get fat off of this diet. It's just not going to happen, but I hold a lot of weight, mostly in my upper body. Like the rest of my body does not distribute weight evenly in that aspect.
And I think tracking for a couple of weeks is a good idea, just so you have an idea. But I think the point is it may not be a sustainable practice because it's tedious.
No, I don't think it is. Also you can eat a lot of food if it's less, processed and calorie dense kind of foods, and you just load up on vegetables and that kind of stuff.
A bathtub full of carrots and it equals half a Cinnabon.
Right, exactly. Well, we have a society that we have easy access to quick and easy foods. We are not creatures who deal in moderation, right? You know, when there's an abundance, we take up that abundance.
Yeah, absolutely.
And the road is hard in that way because there is an abundance, but a lot of times it's like your choices and options. So I prep on the road a lot. If I'm in a city where I know there's like snacks I can pick up, you know, there's a GNC, I'll just be more intent, you know, and once again, jet lag and stuff like that, I can see the difference. I can come home and I will cook for myself and I'll like lean out. I'll go on the road and I will definitely gain a little bit of weight. Nothing, it's a big deal, but there is a difference.
Yeah.
And it's unavoidable between jet lag, you know, is brutal on your circadian rhythms. And like, so you're getting more stress, you know, less sleep, more cortisol.
And then that can lead to like all kinds of depression. And I know some of what you're looking at is how tour life affects depression with especially musicians.
Yeah, well, it's been evolving into the research, and the industry has not had a lot of research done to it. It's a very under the radar industry, but there's some serious consequences. Serious consequences, and I think I've been trying to bring that to light. But there's no warning label, right? You don't join tour and realize that, you know, everyone's like live fast, die young, you know, kind of stuff. But it's like, well, what happens when you don't, right? And you're 55 and you're 60 and you're broken. You are broken. You have tons of bad habits, and you have a doctor tell you like, hey, you need to make some changes. How hard is that, right? Yeah. How hard is making changes when you don't even know what to do? And now you're dealing with extremes. Now you got to cut everything out, you know, cutting everything you do out. And I feel like that's a shame. I feel it's a shame because once again, I think like there's simple things to do that I think people just want to know if they do them, they're going to get the results that they want, right?
Yeah.
If they're going to put the effort in, you know, they're going to get the results they want. Like a traveling person wants to know, like, you know, what is the optimum effort I can put in so that I am kind of like counteracting some of these things. Yeah. So, I mean, that's mostly what I've been trying to see, right? That balance, like, can I do this without being like obsessive?
Right.
You know, of course, then trying to do all the different modalities and all the different stuff, you do kind of become a little bit obsessive, you know?
Earlier you'd mentioned circadian rhythm, and, you know, a lot of times we hit on some of the science of things on this show. And with tour life, especially, you're hopping time zones, and the most active part of the night is typically at nighttime. So I feel like it's limiting your exposure to sunlight.
Absolutely.
And that's a dramatic reduction in vitamin D, which drops mood. Serotonin could drop. But I think that's part of what causes some of the depression. Have you found any ways while you're on tour to deal with that? Like, I've heard of light emitting earbuds that tend to help. What types of things are you familiar with, or is this something you're aware of?
There's a couple great books. One is Why We Sleep. Matthew Walker, right? Dr. Matthew Walker. And there's another one, and I'm totally missing the name of it. And he was basically like a footballer, kind of like a coach. He was a sleep coach. They both dive into the science of sleep, right? I've tested it out. I use like, you know, nose breathe strips, all kinds of stuff, whatever you can do to like get a more peaceful sleep.
So having more oxygen flow helps with a deeper sleep. Is that what the strips are for?
Even a little bit of snoring or a little bit of blocked nasal passage is basically kind of causing less oxygen. So you're kind of in a state where you're almost waking yourself up constantly. Yeah. At least according to the
almost
science.
Like sleep apnea or something.
Yeah. And then it turns into a sleep apnea and stuff like that, which is basically a form of insomnia. There's a lot of people they're like, yeah, I just can't sleep. I just that. And you find out that like they drink coffee all day long. It's like, well, okay, of course you can't sleep. You know, like, yeah, you're like, and you know, if I don't cut caffeine off by 3 p.m, you know, I can feel it. Like I go and lay down. I've traveled to Japan and literally done in like 3 weeks from the US to Japan to San Francisco, then back to Australia, like all in that thing. And like you can get in a state of what it seems to be a chronic jet lag. You're stuck. It's stuck in the fight or flight. And then it turns into anxiety and depression, and you start, you know, you're on the plane and you start having panic attacks and you start like freaking out when you don't know why. You know, depression can lead to insomnia. Insomnia can lead to depression. But I think, you you're offsetting bad stress with good stress by exercising, right?
Yeah.
You're kind of training your body to be more resilient to the ups and downs.
Yeah. And it could be different for different people depending on their cortisol patterns and things like that.
Oh, yeah.
So I think being more in tune and trying to see associations. When you do this, what happens? I think we all have to be detectives for ourselves and figure out what works better.
Have you ever felt like you were just throwing weights around like an idiot at the gym, hoping to see some results? Or after weeks or months of working out, notice that the scale just isn't moving? You wouldn't cook without a recipe. So why would you train or start a weight loss program like the Swedish chef randomly throwing ingredients into a pot? You need a sustainable plan that's science-based and attainable. Fire Within has worked with thousands of clients and helped them reach their goals. So visit firewithinnf.com today. Get yourself the free ebook, read the testimonials, and choose a service that works for you. Choose from services like one-on-one nutrition coaching, one-on-one personal training, and more. Again, that's firewithinnf.com.
The views and opinions expressed on this show are not meant to be used as medical advice. Consult your doctor before implementing any health or exercise changes. The Fire Within encourages you to do your own research and aims to spark interest and motivation to a healthier lifestyle.
Well, let's be honest. I mean, most people don't recognize, even like the alcohol consumption, as a depressant and stimulant, and basically it ruins your sleep. You do a lot of correlation, right? Without, knowing causation. And I think I've been trying to get more into the causation.
Science and the why. Yeah. Yeah, it makes a big difference when you understand why and that there's reason behind it. And hopefully that's what we do with this show. Do you have other sources of information? You mentioned a couple books. Where else do you dive in to find out more about these things?
So through this tour life writing the articles, I wanted to be able to, when you read the article, to realize that this wasn't my opinion, right? It was my experience, my anecdote mixed with the science that I could find. And the internet's a crazy thing because you do research on something and immediately you will find something that gives you the answer, right?
Yeah.
But if you really do real research and dive into it and find what the source is, you realize that there's 5 or 10 articles that are all sort of kind of twisting the science, right? Or they're cherry picking stuff.
Yeah.
But when you get down to learning how to find the studies and reading the studies, and you realize that what's cherry picked or not, this Tour Life, all those articles have all those links, as deep as they can go. I'll play devil's advocate with all the stuff that I believe. It's incredibly frustrating to find out that you believe something intently and find out that it's that's not very well backed up,
Yeah.
People are very confused.
Yeah.
A lot of times. And you have a lot of smart people in the industry that are trying, especially the fitness industry, that are trying to bring to light, but they're all bringing this stuff to light. And it's shit. It's well, where do I start? Don't eat this, or this is not right. This is wrong. Or you don't need this, or you don't need perfect posture, and you don't, or you do. Yes, you do. No, you don't. And it's Jesus.
Now, in your opinion, one of the things I always ask guests is what are the top 3 things you would have somebody do to start a change? With all this information and not knowing where to start, where are the top 3 best places to start, you think? For somebody to either make a transformation, overcome depression, or even somebody with a lifestyle similar to yours, what would those be?
I would say first recognize your diet,
Yeah.
and start to sort of stop treating every day like it's your birthday or you're celebrating or whatever, and find a little bit more joy out of those foods that you really like instead of eating them ad nauseum that aren't good for you. Simplifying your diet, eating more simple whole foods that are as many whole foods that aren't in a box and packaged, simply adding more of those.
Sugar is a drug. It's the most addictive drug there is. And
it's like smoking.
Yeah, it's just like nicotine. It's just like cocaine. You become numb to them, and you need more and more to kind of get a kick from that.
I remember the first time I smoked a cigarette, it was it knocks you. You're just woo, that's whatever. And then the more and more and more and more you smoke, the less sort of effect, the less affects you, the less it less of a jolt it has to your body. But now finally after, 20 some years or more of smoking heavily, the thought of a cigarette would probably knock me down, because it's so chemically powerful. it's like sugar. It's like afterwards it makes you feel horrible, but it's creating its own cycle most of the time. And you break that cycle and you find a lot of freedom. And it's not easy, but on the other side of that, like I said, is a lot of freedom. Yeah. You know? And taste. A lot of taste. You get you enjoy tastes of things again, you know?
Exactly. Because you have this hyper palatability for a while, and then you miss all the undertones of flavors and different things. And then when you finally strip it away after a couple of weeks, things that never had much flavor, all of a sudden really enjoyable. So what would the second thing be?
The second thing would be prioritizing your sleep more. Test it. Like some people feel better waking up in 7.5 hours, in, increments. Some people feel better in 9. Try what happens when you wake up at 8.5 hours and then 7.5 and see how different you feel. Do it for a week, do it for a couple days and find your zone. Like I know now I wake up in a natural cycle. I can get myself there. When I come back from tour, I work to set an alarm. Sometimes I don't want to get up and I don't like getting up early, but I feel better when I do. And that's not everybody. Master what works for you for your sleep, which would be getting the right increments to where you don't feel washed out, halfway through the day.
Yeah. Yeah. I think one of our earlier episodes, we did a whole episode on sleep. What are some of the tactics you use when you are on tour?
I've tried melatonin, CBD. Yeah. I do CBD. We actually did a CBD thing with this tour life that we're still doing. The industry is just changing like crazy.
I'd love to know more about CBD. Can you tell us a little bit about it, particular how it affects sleep?
Well, basically, the cannabinoids relaxes your central nervous system minimally. So everybody talks about it has all these it helps with anxiety, it helps with recovery. It helps minimally. Reason if it affects all those things is from at least any of the science that I've seen so far, aside from anecdotally, is that it relaxes your central nervous system, right? So all that fight or flight that happens, or, your hyperactive nervous system, or I have even restless leg syndrome, where just I'm overtired and whatever. It basically allows you to relax. It has just a calming effect on your central nervous system, not high, not impaired or anything. You just feel an extra breath. But you never need to keep upping it. I think that's the great part, actually, from what I've seen in CBD is once you find that amount. Problem is that it's expensive. And we're hoping more science comes out because I don't like it. I don't like to sell anybody anything that's a potential placebo effect, right? Even though the placebo effect is very real.
Now, have you ever tried Valerian Root or adaptogens?
I have, and I feel like it kind of does the same thing in that way. It does relax, but I think I feel a little bit more grogginess from melatonin and Valerian Root, just a tiny bit more. Yeah. But that might be just me, the effect on me, or might just.
And then a lot of people have really vivid nightmares with melatonin.
Well, melatonin is interesting. It's very dose dependent. You don't need as much. People tend to take too much.
Yeah, I would suggest 5 micrograms occasionally. Yeah. I don't like doing it constantly because your body can start down-regulating your ability to produce it on its own. So I think it's great for jet lag, or in your case, when you're hopping around countries. But I wouldn't use it regularly or chronically every day.
There's just a lot of crap. But I'm not trying to find something to sell to somebody, so to speak. I'm just saying wow, I really put this to the test. 2 years on tour, and I've done this, I've regimented, I've cycled it or whatever.
And then what would the third thing be?
Well, the third thing would be have your mobility assessed.
Yeah.
Have somebody do, overhead squat assessment, or however whatever anybody wants to do to show where your tightnesses are, the lengthened muscles and the shortened muscles. Do your knees cave? Do your feet turn out? Do you pronate? Do you have upper cross syndrome or lower cross syndrome? Do you have anterior or posterior pelvic tilt? And work on it. I just went to a group workout at a local gym because my friend wanted me to go and he wanted me to see it and he loves it. And I was like, yeah, it's amazing. It's got all the elements. But I watched 5 people in that class do movements where they had basically elevated shoulders or their knees were caving in and stuff like that. And no one's addressing it.
Right. So, and that's going to affect the longevity of your ability to continue. So before jumping into something like CrossFit, make sure that biomechanically you're doing corrective exercises to move properly first.
That's my thing. That's even my thing with Jeff Stuff. He has these programs. He talks about it, whatever. But if you're not haven't been a part of the conversation or you don't understand, you jump in and I see people write on the forums, they're like, I'm going to do, the latest monster, his monster maker, whatever. It's like, well, are you even at that level? My adductors on my left side, I had an injury that I had from playing ice hockey years ago and didn't realize I had limited mobility there. Yeah. So now I'm going down and my one leg is not moving in that way, but who's watching that for me?
Right.
And if I don't know how to recognize that, or I'm running and someone's behind me going, wow, you really like your feet go out and all this stuff. It's like,
I lean to the side when I run. And part of that is with the knee surgery, I actually, the compensation that happened, one leg is a quarter inch different than the other. And then the more I run, the more pronounced that lean gets. So I've got pictures and videos of me completely cocked to the side. But to me, I'm upright. I can't tell. I don't have that spatial awareness. And I think that's where, even if you don't always train with somebody, I think everybody could benefit from having a trainer or at least having a couple sessions with a different set of eyes.
I totally agree. I just had a certain preconceived notion about a trainer. And now going through like NASM, being a certified trainer, it's like I want a trainer.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
I still go to ones. So
I've become my own. Once again, I'm such a self-experimenting kind of person, but it's so easy to go and do stuff and get wrapped up in like bench pressing or something like that and not understanding the movements, but then understanding the movements and not understanding that I can't get my body to get in that proper movement through proper form,
right?
Through the plane of space, properly, where I'm not like adjusting somewhere, and that's the focus. That people focus on the ability to get through it, right? Trying to get through the movement, they're trying to do it for time, they're trying to do it whatever, but they're just not noticing these little things they can't be objective about.
Yeah.
That's definitely where my head's at, really right now with this stuff. And there's so many different voices out there coming from so many different perspectives. I would say that focusing on your mobility, where that's at, and then the next step, just building the competent stability is very simple. You'll be less injury prone and you will be more stable at the planes of motion that you're moving, just walking and moving.
To kind of summarize, if somebody's starting out, your advice to them would be, number one, get their nutrition under control. Start by minimizing processed foods and eating more whole foods. And if they've never done it, it may not hurt to track for a couple of weeks just to have an idea of what you're putting in your body.
Sure. Yeah.
And then you want to get your sleep under control. And then lastly, work on mobility first, because that's going to lead to longevity of exercise versus just taking off, doing marathons, lifting heavy, throwing out your back, or getting a knee injury.
Yeah. I mean, in my opinion, people usually go the other way, right? Yeah. They start training and then they start looking at their nutrition and then someone goes, sleep is where you recover.
That's what I did.
But at that point, and I did too, at that point, you're already in this mindset that you've achieved, you're just in the backwards mindset, right? You're just approaching it, I think, from the top down, right? Where you don't have these good foundations.
Yeah. And
you're trying to be at a peak performance. And then you start trying to improve your foundations, backwards.
Yeah.
And you really not wasted, but you've definitely made the process longer for yourself.
Yeah.
With a lot of misunderstanding and pitfalls.
Yeah. Literally, right? I just started running without knowing anything. I just wanted to do a marathon. So, I bonked and was like, why am I bonking? Why do I have all these injuries? And then I started looking at nutrition, and then I learned more about proper movement patterns. And
let's say psychologically, how much more I believe you get from a better diet, and then better sleep. And then you're in a better, and even seeing the results you get, like from a good diet on your weight, your health in general, is like, then you're focused on the right thing, because that is something you're going to do for the rest of your life. You may not exercise for the rest of your life, but you're going to eat for the rest of your life and you're going to sleep for the rest of your life. So I feel like everybody, you and I included, starts from the exercise point, because that's what gets them inspired. Then I think it also breaks them down too fast. They get disappointed, frustrated, not getting the results they do. And there are other people who push through that and they do find their way. And there are other people I don't understand. I see some transformations and I'm like, how did that person do it? What am I missing here? Because there's no way I could have made a transformation like that. Like, is it their youth? Are they good athletes? There's a lot of factors in that. Don't mess with those factors. Don't be concerned with those factors.
Just be concerned with your own body. I think that's a great perspective. Now,
and if you don't get to the third one, the first two, like I said, are like, even for touring, like even for my lifestyle, those first two, mastering those first two to just be in the pocket with them the best you can. So you have, enough leeway when it's not perfect.
Yeah.
I mean, that's going to create longevity in itself and even mental wellness.
Before we wrap up today, you'd mentioned a little bit about this tour life and your blog and kind of studying depression and things like that. People going through any kind of depression, if it's job related, if it's circadian rhythm related, what types of tactics, I know better nutrition and things like that help, and exercise helps. What other advice or strategies can people use to overcome some of those issues?
I mean, just like a trainer, seek a therapist.
Yeah.
But having a third party, an objective third party to talk to give you perspective that's not related to you, that's not married to you, that's not in a relationship with you, not your children, not your best friend. It is someone who has been trained, from my personal experience. Helping others has tried to become my purpose. In trying to help myself, I've tried to translate it to others. Having that purpose got me out of my own holes, having a purpose. And people have a hard time finding a purpose because some people have been told to focus too much on money. Some people have been focused to focus on fame or focus on huge success. But I think a lot of that stuff follows, once again, from prioritizing, right? Can't help anybody if you can't help yourself. If I'm going to get surgery, I'm not going to it from a guy who learned it on YouTube.
Right.
I'm going to a guy who has gone to an institution and has been peer reviewed, and there is a level of accomplishment,
Right.
So if you want those things, seek out those people, and that.
Yeah, and sometimes just the accountability of, if I'm going to go to this appointment and they give me something to work on, I'm more likely to do it as well. So I think seek accountability too.
People also who inspire you are great, but but if they're not certified or they're not like, they have degrees and stuff like that, take it for what it is. Inspiration, motivation, but don't turn it into like the be all and end all, I think. Yeah. I think just seek a lot of perspectives and then simplify it for yourself.
No, that makes a lot of sense. Now, are you working on like a survey or a project or anything with musicians now? Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, well, we started this. Dr. Chaim Newman, who's a clinical physician, he also works with artists and stuff like that, kind of approached me from this tour life. I had done a survey and then realized I didn't know what to do with it because I'm not a clinician and I'm not a statistician. And I went, oh man, I need like the perfect storm here of people who understand the industry, a person who understands the industry, but who is able to do a clinically approved, IRB approved study that this can be put into peer reviewed stuff, like a legitimate study. And I don't have that ability, but I do have the ability to help. So he reached out to me, we teamed up, we spent, months just designing questions. We've got about 1,000 people who have taken it so far. We really want to, we've gotten other organizations are getting involved, and Music Cares, and people are starting to kind of come around it. And hopefully we'll have like 9,000 points of data, which will be able to help give people the tools in our industry to create programs to address these issues and trying to help people in this business, because at least if you know the pitfalls, you can make a more educated decision if you want to do it or not. Yeah. And how to stay in it, how to make it last. Because I love the job, and I do, I do well in it, and it's been my full-time thing since I was like 20. But it has been a fight.
Yeah.
It's been a fight to keep and stay in and not just give up on, Yeah.
Now, if somebody wanted to find your blog or find out more about what you're doing, where could they find information on that?
Well, This Tour Life is thistourlife.com. The Tour Health Research Initiative, also known as Thrive, is tourhealth.org is where you can find that. We also have, our Instagram and Facebook, and Instagram is This Tour Life. Tour Health Initiative is Instagram, and there's a Facebook page, which is, This Tour Life Facebook page, and there's a Thrive Facebook page. So there's there's a lot of social media pages out there, which actually has gotten a little bit overwhelming trying to keep them all in order. But luckily, it's more than just me, and I have a great partners who are all kind of dedicated to the same cause.
Yeah. Well, thanks for carving out some time with your busy schedule to give us your perspective. I think our listeners can learn a lot from that. And I feel like if somebody like you is able to make changes in their life with your schedule, traveling all over the place at all kinds of crazy hours in an environment where heavy drinking is the norm, if you're able to break through that and reclaim your health, I hope that gives motivation that others can too. So thank you for sharing your story.
Yeah, I hope so too. I really do think it's possible without making yourself crazy and extreme, and seeking help. Seek help from the people who can give you the knowledge and the help.
Maybe I'll see you at another AX Games.
I'm going to try to be there. I've already purchased my ticket. There's a lot of stuff going on in my business right now with everything that's going on in the world. There's a lot of cancellations and stuff. So
coronavirus,
that's been a little bit stressful. A lot of people have been canceling.
Yeah,
so,
that could be its own episode.
Yeah, it might be its own episode later, because a lot of people are don't know what to do.
Yeah, I'll take care of your health now, and you'll be more resilient to the virus. That's what I got for now.
I agree, 100%.
All right, sir. We'll talk to you soon. Thanks for tuning in today. I hope you got a lot of value out of today's episode. If you did, go check us out at firewithinnf.com. You can subscribe to our newsletters and make sure you never miss an episode or any other content. Also, be sure to follow us on social media.